Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're unpacking a really fascinating chapter that breaks down the absolute fundamentals of what makes our bodies tick. But more than that, we're going to translate this academic blueprint of human fuel into the real-world reality of adolescent life. How we actually manage that fuel during one of the most chaotic, high-speed periods of human development.
Here's our roadmap for the chapter. We'll start with the pure science of nutrition, health, and fitness. Look at building a balanced diet with the 5 food groups in the pyramid, and then pivot to how this textbook science actually collides with teenage eating habits, influences, and disorders. All right, Section 1, Nutrition, Health, and Fitness. Let's establish some of our foundational concepts.
We've all heard this phrase a million times, right? You are what you eat. But the chapter points out that during adolescence, which is a period defined by massive growth spurts and crazy hormonal changes that affect literally every organ in your body, this old saying is scientifically proven to be completely true. Your nutrient needs absolutely peak during these teenage years before they level off in adulthood. So you aren't just eating for today. You're actively building the adult body you're going to inhabit for the rest of your life. It's a huge deal. Now, to understand how to properly fuel that body, we've got to separate two concepts that are often totally jumbled together. According to the World Health Organization, health isn't just the absence of disease, it's a state of complete physical, emotional, and social well-being. Think of health like the overall condition of a car, the engine, the exterior, the electronics, all working in perfect harmony. Fitness, on the other hand, that's specifically your body's physical capacity and efficiency. It's the car's horsepower, or in human terms, your ability to actually meet the demands of a physical task.
So how do we achieve both optimal health and peak fitness? Well, our fuel basically splits into 2 camps. Macronutrients are the bulk fuels your body requires in really large amounts, your carbohydrates, proteins, fats, water, and fiber. Micronutrients, conversely, are required in much smaller amounts, but don't let that fool you. They act as absolutely crucial metabolic regulators. These are your vitamins and minerals, things like the iron and calcium that are so critical during adolescent bone growth.
Moving on to Section 2, Building a Balanced Diet. What's really interesting here is how the chapter explains calculating what our bodies actually need on a daily basis. You see, a truly balanced diet doesn't just meet your bare minimum daily requirements, it meets your recommended dietary allowances, or RDAs. And as this formula brilliantly outlines, your RDA equals your actual requirements plus a margin of safety. Think of this margin of safety like your biological backup generator. It provides this built-in reserve of nutrients to protect you on days when you might fast, skip a meal, or just miss out on certain foods. It's your body's insurance policy. Next up, Section 3, the 5 food groups. Because let's be real, nobody wants to do complex nutritional math at every single meal. To keep things simple, the Indian Council of Medical Research outlines these 5 basic food groups. And what is really fascinating here is the harmony between them. Notice how no single group acts alone. Cereals give you the raw energy. Pulses and meats build your structural foundation with protein. And meanwhile, fruits and vegetables act as the mechanics, providing the vitamins and fiber to keep the whole operation running smoothly. You absolutely have to mix and match to get the full spectrum of fuel.
All right, Section 4, the Food Guide Pyramid. Let's see how all these groups build into a daily visual guide.
The Food Guide Pyramid is just a fantastic practical guide designed to show variety, moderation, and proportion. Notice that really broad foundation of grains at the base. Those should be abundant. Moving up, we've got our fruits, veggies, meats, and dairy, holding prominent places without totally overloading us. And finally, way at the top, a tiny little apex of fats and sugars that, unfortunately for our taste buds, are meant to be used very sparingly. In fact, if you look closely at the design there, the bottom 2 tiers, the plant foods like grains, vegetables, and fruits, should actually make up roughly 75% of a healthy daily diet. 75%. It is an incredibly simple visual rule of thumb for optimal health. But here's the big question. We have the academic blueprint, right? We know the food groups, we've seen the perfect pyramid, but how does this actually fit into the reality of being a teenager? It is time to transition from the perfect textbook model to the sometimes messy, high-speed reality of adolescent life. That brings us to Section 5, Teenage Eating Habits. Let's look at the actual behaviors that dictate adolescent nutrition. The chapter notes that teenagers frequently adopt some pretty specific eating idiosyncrasies. They skip meals, routinely consume fast food packed with empty calories, actively dodge fruits and vegetables, snack constantly, and engage in dieting.
And because of these habits, teens are often missing out on vital micronutrients like calcium and iron at the exact moment their rapidly growing bodies are practically begging for them. But hey, we shouldn't judge all these habits too harshly. Believe it or not, the source material points out that snacking is practically a teenage survival technique. It can actually be highly beneficial for maintaining energy levels in active, growing teens who might miss regular meals due to their crazy schedules. The key is simply making sure they aren't surviving exclusively on nutrient-poor, empty calories. So snacking is totally fine. What you snack on is the real game changer. Finally, Section 6, Influences and Eating Disorders. To truly understand why teens eat the way they do, we have to look way beyond the kitchen. When you break down food behavior, you quickly realize it's a massive collision of forces. On one side, you have powerful internal factors, your physiological needs, personal values, and most notably, body image and self-concept. And crashing right into those are relentless external factors, your family unit, peer pressure, fast food availability, and the massive influence of marketing and mass media. It is a highly complex web to navigate every single day. And when the intense pressure of rapid physical changes collides with unrealistic body image expectations, things can get very serious. Teenagers are super vulnerable here, which is why eating disorders are of special concern during this life stage. Disorders like anorexia nervosa are deeply tied to body image distortion. When an adolescent is struggling with self-identity and adopts severely unhealthy eating behaviors, it literally interrupts their normal physical and mental progress toward adulthood. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want you to reflect on your own habits. We've gone through the chapter, we know the biological blueprint, but looking at your own life, are your daily food choices actually driven by what your body needs to thrive? Or have you allowed them to be quietly hijacked by the media, peer pressures, and the fast-paced world around you? Figuring that out is the very first step toward true, total well-being. Thanks for joining me, and I'll catch you in the next one.